Hey, what it do, everybody? Peace. I pray that everybody's doing good today. Coming back for another video. Not sure how long this is going to be, but I think if I can, and the title not long, I'll title this one Arrogance A plus a lack of self-evaluation equals division. I talk so often about relationships, from a kingdom or biblical perspective. And of course, we know in this modern time, I think the last I looked, the divorce rate is 47%. I think women are initiating about 80% of the divorces. And I seen some statistic that said people who come from divorced homes have a 90% chance of divorce. So we know the statistics. We know the raising of single parent homes, and we know all that. And we know that many people are coming from homes that even if parents were married, you have an aspect of married, but how decent is the marriage? What type of lessons and things are the children picking up? And we're all flawed. We're all flawed, which is why we need that I call it that blood banner, that blood-stained banner of the Most High, of Yahshua. We need it. We need it to cover us because there's so much sin that that it's within us as humans, but also that we pick up from mom, from dad, from grandfather, from aunt, from so on, and so much of those type of things. And there's various traumas that we experience, like molestation, like rape, like abuse, and so often. So it's so easy to carry those things in our relationships, and also it's easy to allow those things to help us to sabotage the relationships that we're in, or relationships that we hope to get in. But back to the title of Arrogance A plus a lack of self evaluation equals division. I think that in this modern times that we in, and I just said the divorce rate, I think the rate of marriage amongst the younger generations is about 24 to 27%. That's not great. If you're talking kingdom wise, that's not great, because just on a lot of fronts. I mean, you're talking about 24% marriage, and I see a lot of men saying, "What is why marry nowadays? It's just not worth it. It's not worth being in some type of marriage nowadays. It's against men, and men are hurt, women are hurt. It is a big deal." But I think one of the things that's so important, and I was thinking about this from a sense of being in prayer. When you begin to self-evaluate, and you evaluate whether it's how you was raised, you evaluate what you've picked up living. That includes let's say, gossip. You've picked up your gossip. You've picked up how to talk about people. You've picked up that from mother. You picked up anger, how to instantly fly off the handle. You've picked that up from your father. You've picked up avenues of lust and pornography from your uncles and your little cousins or whatever. You've picked up breaking up because all of your aunts are divorced. And once you begin to really self-reflect on your life and on your journey, it's a big lesson in humility. I don't care your job status. I don't care your economic or educational status. I don't care when you self-evaluate in this modern society, especially, it is a lesson and a crash course into humility. Because one of the first things you understand is how flawed we are. And I think one of the biggest issues with our modern relationships, or lack thereof, modern marriages, lack thereof being that they stay together for a long time, is that we go into these relationships and sometimes even sabotage them, but we go into them not realizing our own flaws. We go into them expecting this other person to be like A, B, and C. But if we open the mirror to our mind, the mirror to our souls, the mirror to our flaws, you begin to see how imperfect we are. You begin to see what negative traits we've picked up from mom and dad, and so on and so forth. A big part of this kingdom journey is you're bringing yourself. So let's say you're 50% good and 50% bad, and you're merging with this person. Let's say they 40% good and 60% bad, and you're meeting in the middle. You're meeting right in the middle. And like I said earlier, if you come from divorce or you come from these issues, they come from some of the same issues. In some cases, it's a ticking time bomb, right? So you have to even think about getting in a relationship. You have to come at it with a certain type of humility, a certain type of grace, a certain type of forgiveness, a certain type of self-evaluation. And it's one of the reasons why when they was asking the Messiah in the New Testament about counting the cost of following him, that was a very powerful spiritual point, because it's easy to say I want to be married. And that's the easy part. It's easy to say I want to follow the Messiah. I want to do what you do. That's easy. But you better count the cost. You better count, what am I going to have to give up? What am I going to have to endure? What am I going to have to go through because I am about to elope myself with the person who's been abused? Yeah, I'm about to involve myself with somebody who has been molested. I'm about to involve myself with a person who was spoiled. These are the type of questions that we must begin to answer if we're going to do this journey with another person. And it's not always to say, because you have identified the issues of yourself or the issues of them, that it means you're not supposed to do it. What if the Most High God put you with a person because you are the person who is going to help them overcome the burdens that are in their life? Their own burdens that they have hidden away, that nobody knows it, and that's the funny thing, because people got issues that nobody knows, that those own burdens that they're having and they're carrying around. Who's to say that the Most High can't say, hey, y'all need to pair up, and it's y'all's job together to help one another walk through the fire, walk through the smoke, walk through the trials and the tribulations together. Help heal, help strengthen, help reinforce, help grow each other, help pray for each other. How important is that? And a lot of times we don't look at it like that, because in this modern arrogant time, if you can't do what I say, you can't have the money I want. If you can't bow down to me, if you can't have some of these things, I don't want you. But often, all that is it's a wound within the self. You're wounded within yourself, so you begin to take out your hurt on others. And sometimes, let's be honest, that hurt is false expectations. That hurt is you're hurting within yourself, but now you're expecting somebody else to be more than they're capable of being to you. Why? Because you're hurt, so now you're coming at them in an avenue of hurt. Because you want a toxic situation, because you are toxic. You know what I'm saying? So you have to constantly reflect on your why. You have to constantly, I think it's very important, especially when it relates to just prayer and studying of the word and being edified by different people. You have to constantly look within yourself to make sure that you're not putting a burden on another person because of your own trauma and issues. You have to self-evaluate. You have to say, hey, in prayer or whatever the case may be, God, heal this wound within me. This wound of abandonment. This wound of anger. Maybe it's a deep-rooted piece of anger that's rooted against your father not being there. Maybe it's a deep root of anger of being teased over and over and over about how you're not going to amount to nothing, about how dumb you are, about your looks, or about something else. You have to self-analyze. You have to get naked, if you will, with yourself to say, these are my scars. These are my deep wounds and scars. And a lot of times when we meet people, and it's kind of funny, we don't put this part out there on Front Street. We don't. We try to put our best foot forward. And anybody who, that's common humanity, like social media. Somebody on social media, they're going to talk about when they got a new job. They're going to talk about when they got a new car. They're going to talk about when they got the new so-and-so. Very, very rare. Some people do it, though. Very rare where people get on there and talk about the issues that they have internally and the problems that they have and that they're occurring and what they went through. Usually we put our best foot forward publicly. And that's another issue with social society, too, because you put on such a facade that once you get into this relationship and this marriage, that's why people say, oh, I didn't know she was like that. Oh, I didn't know he was like that. And then some people say that's red flags, but I think it's deeper than red flags. I think it's a matter of how much self-awareness do you got as a person. I want self-aware people around me. I want people who can look at me or say to me, I have some scars. I have some fears. I have some things that I am afraid of, that I am dealing with. And when you get me, you're going to get a little bit of that. I want somebody around me who's going to say, hey, this is what I've been through. I'm going to need help. And let me say this too. That's not a excuse to be a wrecking ball in a relationship. That's not an excuse to, you've been through trauma, so now you could just be a tornado in the house and in the relationship and crush everything. That's not fair either. And that's not an excuse for that. And as a person, the person with the issue, you have a responsibility to try to help yourself heal. Now, what that other person can do is come alongside you on your journey and be as a passenger in the HOV lane, meaning they can be as a passenger with you going down this lane, and they can provide an avenue of maybe a help, or maybe healing, or maybe emotional healing. They can provide some help for you, but ultimately, you have to be the one who not only know your flaws, not only know your triggers, and that's a big one, that trigger where not only know your triggers, because let's say your trigger is self-esteem. So it is important for a wife or a husband or a fiance or a boyfriend, girlfriend to know this is his triggers or this is her triggers. It is important to know that. It is important to know that. It is important to know that if a guy has a self-esteem issue around feeling like he can't try, and then you're making jokes on that type of issue, that's going to hurt him. It's a real if your wife doesn't feel pretty, and you're joking about how short her hair is or how this, that, and the other, her skin tone. That's hurtful. And we gotta sometimes mature in learning that when you're lashing out trying to hurt another person, ultimately you have a mirror of hurt within yourself. You do. And of course everybody knows the famous quote, hurt people. And it's true though. But it's like you have to know your wounds. You have to be in prayer for your wounds. You have to hope that your significant other can kind of help you on that journey to healing your wounds. But you also gotta look at yourself and say, "Hey, I gotta do some of the work too." Now, I think it's important when you can meet someone that maybe their strength are your weaknesses, and maybe you two can kind of, help each other because your strengths are her weakness and vice versa. And I think within that same type of mindset, you got to understand that when you get into something serious, you see the other side of a person. You see all of their weak areas. They come into the relationship with a withered hand that is covered by a sleeve. When they in that marriage, that sleeve is covered off that withered hand, and that withered hand is on display. Now that's the real them. They're an alcoholic, whatever the case may be. I don't want to kind of get into saying, but the real part begins to happen. And I think it's important that before you even get to that point, you have a level of self-evaluation going on to where you know this is the area I need help in. This is the area that I may struggle in. You have to have that openness there and that transparency there. And ultimately, to be honest, that's led by humility. I'm gonna be honest. That's led by humility. If you're so arrogant, if you're so, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, you're the greatest thing on this world, that's not healthy. That's not healthy for a relationship, because a relationship is ultimately two broken people. Now, we're talking about America. We're talking about a broken society. We're talking about a society that's hooked on from drugs to medicines to shopping to all a bunch of junk. So you're living in it, and you're 9 out of 10. If you're from this country, you were brought up in a broken society. So you are broken. Let's not make any mistake about it. Now, I'm not going to say everybody's broken per se, but everybody has sin. He without sin cast first stone. That fall was sinful. So maybe your sin is not that other person's sin, but you have an area. You have a weak area, dude. You have a weak area, sister. And it's important to have righteous humility in the context of relationships. That's almost everything. And everybody talks about the importance of forgiveness, and forgiveness is everything. And I've taught them that before. Forgiveness is everything, but so is humility. Because humility is understanding, hey, dude, I'm so freaking flawed. I'm thankful to have you with me. I'm so freaking flawed on this journey as a person. I'm happy that somebody is even willing to assist and grow with me on this journey, because I am aware of my own issues, aware of your own infirmities, if you will. Very important. Very, very important. And I remember I made a video on this. I don't know if it was on here or not, but I said how so much of the modern dating, it's egotistical. It's arrogancy, man. And trust me, you can't build no relationship on arrogance. You can't build on no relationship saying, this is what I deserve. I deserve this. I deserve for you to do this. You better. Huh? Says who? Says who? Says who do you deserve this and you deserve that? The level of arrogancy, which is a big deal why marriage rate is so low and divorce rate is so high, is astounding. And truthfully, it's very anti-God. It is very, very anti the Creator. Just think about this, and this is real. Just think about if we go to prayer to the Most High, and we say, God, I deserve a sports car. I deserve a 6-figure job. I deserve a woman that's shaped like a Coke bottle. I deserve a man that's tall. I deserve a man that's going to take me out. Says who? How dare me, in a broken state, go to the Creator and demand that? How dare me, in a broken state, go to a woman and demand that? How dare me go in a broken state, go to a man and command that? That's not fair. It's not fair. And one of the big things I see sometimes, I'm kind of thinking about my experiences in this as well. We put our own traumas and our own, really, I don't want to say that. We put our own issues on other people. It's that old adage of being mad at work and then taking that out on your spouse. And we're human, some people do that, and that's not right, but I'm saying it's that old adage of, you're mad, so now I'm going to inflict some pain on you. And it's not right. It's not right. Man, if you're trying to grow in a relationship, man, you better have humility. You better have a deep-seated basket of forgiveness. You better have faith, and you better gird up your loins, as the Old Testament say. You better gird up your loins, because guess what? I'm dealing with a person that's imperfect. I'm dealing with a person that I know they have traumas. It's not a I think you may. No, I know. I know you're going to come with your own set of traumas. If you were never raised around your father, you're going to have your own frustrations. You never was raised, with this, you're going to have your own. I know that. That's just something that I know. And maybe I'm speaking to a little bit of our community, but it's real. So I have to almost guard myself for this ride that I'm about to endure. You ever looked at sports, you look at whether it's football or whether it's NASCAR, they got the gloves. You better strap your gloves on. They got the helmet. You better put your helmet on. They got the suit zipped it up and buttoned up. You better put it on. Why? Because I know I'm finna get into a real serious situation. And it's not gonna be like the movies. And it may not be like the fairy tales. And a job loss may happen. And somebody might not feel well. And and you have to meet people in the middle, man. You can't go in relationships telling people what you are expecting or what they better do without first meeting them in the middle. Learn about their life aspirations. Learn about their life goals. Learn about what makes them tick. Learn about what makes them cry. Learn about if you're not ready to invest in that stuff, then you can't dare go in there saying I command this and I command that and you better do it. You're crazy. You're crazy expecting that. You're crazy talking like that. Because you're not meeting in a center, in the middle. You're not meeting in a place of humility. You're meeting in a place of hurt and in a place of arrogancy. And that's rampant in our society. That's rampant in our society. It's rampant. I deserve to get taken out. Says who? Says who? And I don't want to make this a joke thing, but we're so far removed from self-evaluation. We're so far removed from righteous humility. We're so far removed from, really looking at your own issues and understanding your own hurt. I'm talking about to the level where you're praying deeply for your own issues. We're so far removed from that, man, that we get with people. We bring our issues. We bring their issues. We mix it like a toxic drink and it foams up and it spills all over the floor. We say, well, we did not know that this was going to be this messy. Yeah. 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 Because you got two people who are hurt coming together under the guise of, a lot of times, not reality. And I have a philosophy. I don't know if it's real, but I think people got to have real expectations. I really think you got to have expectations that aren't super high. Like, if you've been through some trauma and stuff, I think you should go at it like this. And I think way too many people go at it super high. And then after the first couple fights and arguments, it's like, I hate this, I want out of it. Why? Because your expectation way too high. Dude, you're talking about two sick humans trying to make a relationship work. Good luck. In our modern times, good luck. Divorce is everywhere. Good luck. Hatred is everywhere. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. If they're not self-aware, if they're not trying to get better, and let me say this too, self-awareness, not self-awareness, but sometimes that's too. Getting better may not come overnight. That's hard though. That's hard to hear. I want this person to fix themselves tonight, in a year, in 2 years, in 4 years. No, who says that, dude? Who says that they're going to heal quickly? What if what you're in is a long-term project? Is a 3-year project. I don't mean 3 years, meaning after 3 years of divorce. I'm talking about after 3 years, that's when you finally start seeing healing. I remember hearing somebody, and I don't know the whole story, but they were saying that they were in a relationship. They were married, I think, I want to say. Married or engaged to a person who, they was a drug addict, or they would run the streets and have different women. And it was hurting this person. They were really hurt because they were saying, like, man, I'm hurt that this person is like A, B, and C. But, I guess they liked them to a little bit. And they persons that they wept. They got on their prayer closet, prayer floor, and they cried out. And they prayed for that man. God heal him, restore him, get him off these drugs, get him from running these streets. And, long story short, that person ended up repenting and coming back and healing, being healed and whole. And now they have a marriage. And I think they've been married for 20, 30 years now, give or take. I'm not 100% sure about that part, but I think they've been married for a while. But in the beginning, there was a lot of hiccups. In the beginning, there was a lot of trauma. And I think nobody really teaches that part. that you're getting into some. And I don't think you gotta look at it as a scary thing. Like, oh man, it's so scary. I don't even want to get into it. But you better count the cost. You want to follow the Messiah? They say you want to follow. He said we gotta count the cost. What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to endure? You know, and that is it's ultimately, go back to the title. If I want to title this, hopefully it's not too long of a title. Arrogancy plus a lack of self-evaluation equals division. The Messiah said it so beautifully. How you forgive others will be how you forgiven. So if I'm coming into my relationship and I already know my wife is full of flaws, I know her background story, then guess what? If she know my story, then guess what? We better both understand that forgiveness better be at the front of our list. I need a person who's going to forgive. Why? Because I'm a bumpy ride. They need a person who's going to forgive. Why? Because they're a bumpy ride. But we got so much of this fake stuff in society, man. So much of this, show off and, stuff on social media, man. And that's not real. I mean, it's real in some cases, but it's not real because real people got real problems, dude. They got real traumas, dude. Dude, mom left at 10 years old. He feel abandoned. So every time you go somewhere, he's jealous. These are real issues. And to go back a little bit, these are the stuff you better know before you get involved in some situations, because some situations you might not need to get involved with. But sometimes the Most High will put you with someone to help overcome some issues. But if two people are not humble, if two people are not seeking Him, if two people are not self-aware of their own issues, then ultimately they're on a crash course nowhere. If two people are not praying, and not all the time it's two, sometimes it's one. If you got to carry one of the burdens. The Apostle Paul said that. Got to carry one of those burdens, man. And that's not the fun stuff. Let's be honest. It's not the fun stuff that's glorified. But can you carry a burden, man? Can you pray for someone who all they know is to abandon when stuff gets hard? All they know is to leave when the road gets bumpy. Can you build with somebody like that? Can you pray with somebody like that? And I'm not talking about no little one-day prayer. I'm talking about for a year. I'm talking about maybe a little bit of fasting. Yeah. I'm talking about, can you open your heart, soul, and mind up to the Spirit of the Most High God and say, Father, help me to bear this cross because it's a heavy burden. Can you do that? And if you can't do that, you're not ready for nothing serious. You're not ready for nothing serious. It's easy to want that when everything's going good, but how do you handle when there's money problems and job loss seem to be abundantly there, consistently and chronically there? How do you handle that? How do you handle that? I was reading an article, and I end with this one about 28 minutes in. I end with this one. I'm big into the relationship materials. I read a ton of marriage and relationship books because that's something I'm passionate about. And that was a story on, the book is over somewhere. I wish I could get it right now without moving, but it was a story about the core principles of the 7 habits of highly successful families. But there was a couple who was out in Utah, and the wife had a stable job. She was around her family. Everything was going hunky-dory. She was in love. That's when I say love, I mean loving her life. I think they just bought a property, whatever. Her husband wanted to go back to school. He wanted to go finish up his bachelor's degree in Pennsylvania. So that would mean uprooting the family, moving from her good job, going all the way across the country. That's tough. So the husband wanted to do it, and he did it. And over time, she joined him there. She joined him. And in joining him there, she was the primary breadwinner, which is funny we use that word, but she was the primary breadwinner. She was the one bringing in the money in the house for 2 years. 2 whole years, she was paying all the bills. And when he finished university, she got his business management degree, I think. When he finished university, she said, hey, well, I've been doing this for all this time. It's time for you to start earning some money for the family. It's time for you to start doing what you have to do. So they were having some rockiness there, and then they went, they went to each other, in dinner, and he said to her, he said, well, he was going to a lot of interviews, getting turned down, getting turned down, getting turned down. So he was a bit frustrated himself. And that's why it's important for couples to be on that one link to really understand each other and understand their trials and tribulations. But, they went out to eat. And he said to her, he said, well, is it that you just don't like working? And she said, no, it's not that I don't like working. It's just that I need you to help carry some of this load as well. So he's still looking, and he came to a conclusion. He said, well, what if I opened up my own business? And to himself, he brought it to her. He said, what if I open up my own business? So within this time, it was a lot of friction. The wife moved back to Utah. The husband was still trying to make things work then. And then at the darkest hour of their marriage, they met over dinner. And they said to each other, we're in a tough place. What can we do to help our relationship survive and thrive? And he told her, he said, hey, I wanna work and provide. Can you help? He said, what if I start my own business? Would that help ease some of your hurts, and fears? She said yes. She said, she offered her part, what the issue she was struggling. She offered her suggestion. The lady said it was a lot of debt, a lot of frustration, but what they did was they took out loans and they were able to help him start his business, his self-employed business. And now, I don't know if it took 2 or 3 years. I don't know how long it took, but now their business is thriving. It's still a tough work, whatever business is in, but now the business is thriving. They just bought a home. I think they just hired a kid, and now their marriage is flourishing. But what the key was, they said in the point of the book at that particular point was, they came together to figure out a solution to the problems that they were facing. That's the type of people you want on your side. It's easy to point out the issues in a marriage. It's easy to point out the complaint in a relationship. You want somebody with enough self-evaluation, enough self-awareness to say, okay, how can we meet in the middle to fix what we have when it's in the darkest hour, and the most apt thing to do is to give up. I think that's a very powerful illustration, because I think we're in a time where I gave the data. Many aren't marrying. And maybe, I don't know if this was African American millennials or all Caucasian, whatever, but many aren't married. Many have seen divorce. Many, now you got gray divorce. People have been 30 years married and they start divorcing after, it's issues. It's an issue here in this land. And the only way we're going to fix it is if we understand that this principle, that arrogancy plus a lack of self-evaluation equals division. Glory to the Most High God. Glory to those who want a relationship. Glory to those who have came out of some tough relationships. May grace heal you. May you learn from your issues that maybe you have contributed to, or maybe that you have fostered. And may you consistently self-reflect, and may you consistently pray and pray often. Study that word, stay in that word, stay rooted in that word, and be a decent person, man. The moment you understand we're all full of flaws, you'll start to look at one another differently. Peace.